Welcome back to Leeds Lately for another episode of Dream Teams. This time we've got Kev from the Leeds House Pub Talk podcast and Not Another Leeds United podcast. Two great podcasts which you should go and check out. One of them or both of them will be in the title and description for you to go and click at, and then they're a great laugh. The Not Another Leeds podcast is a little bit more of a comedy niche, isn't it, than the Pub Talk podcast, but they're both a great listen if you want to get your Leeds United stuff on there. But yeah, so like I said at the start, it's Dream Teams, another episode. So make sure you hit that button down below. That should come up. There we go. And we'll do as we usually do and go straight in with the formation. So Kev, what formation have you gone for your Dream Leeds United team?
I've actually gone old school and gone 4-4-2 for mine. It was
okay.
So many players to pick from, and I think 4-4-2 was the one that fitted the most. So yeah, that's what I've gone for. Yeah,
happy with that. I think Joe went for a 4-4-2, a traditional 4-4-2, and then I think somebody else went for a 4-4-2. It might have been Rocco, but he went for a bit of a diamond in midfield. So there's been a few people have gone for that. It's a good formation because, like you say, it gets a lot of players in, and yes, it's old school, but it can still work. So, so who have you gone for your goalkeeper then?
I think most people have already gone for this guy. I'm going to go for Cornwall's most famous footballer. I've got to go for Nigel Martin. Yeah, one of the best goalkeepers we ever had. He was absolutely fantastic. So, what a player! Yeah, I've gone for Nigel Martin.
I think a lot of people underrate Nigel Martin, actually, because the Fozcast, Ben Foster's podcast, they've been doing a series of things where they rate top tens. So they've done strikers, midfielders, defenders, and recently they did a goalkeepers one. I was listening to it on my way home from work the other night, and they mentioned Nigel Martin just sort of in passing, but they went, "Oh, he's an honourable mention, but he won't make anywhere near the top 10." But then they were saying like Shay Given is higher than him and stuff like that. And I think Shay Given was a good goalkeeper, but I think people do kind of tend to forget how good Nigel Martin actually was as a goalkeeper. And I think Leeds fans know, but other fans tend to underrate him, I think.
I think it was because he was in the same era as David Seaman, and he was always England's number one at the time, and Martin was the number two. But people are keen to forget that Nigel Martin went to 4 major tournaments for England, 4 major tournaments over his career. And he still won 23 caps as well. And one of the things that people don't remember about Nigel Martin was he was in goal the day that David Beckham scored that amazing free kick against Greece and sent us through.
Oh, was it?
Everyone just remembers the free kick, but they don't remember that Nigel Martin was in goal that game. And he was also the first £1 million goalkeeper as well, Nigel Martin. And
was he?
He also became the most expensive goalkeeper again when we've signed him from Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace signed him for, I believe it was $1 million, and then we've got to sign him for 2.25 million afterwards.
Yeah. So he's broke that record twice. Yeah. Luke mentioned how good he'd been in Europe. Some other people mentioned how good he'd been in the league, and was underrated actually at his ability to play with the ball as well, and his passing accuracy and things like that. I think was underrated, but most of all, he was a really solid shot stopper.
Great shot stopper.
I think he's criminally underrated. But yeah, great choice, and there's a lot of people who've picked him, so I think a lot of people consider him to be the best Leeds goalkeeper of all time. Or certainly up there.
94 clean sheets, Max. 94 clean sheets for Leeds in the league. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. You know? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't see many like that, do you?
No, he was just calm on the ball. He was just a really nice fella, and I mean, he was really good at all sports. I think he played cricket as well, and he was just good at everything. And he was the most safest goalkeeper that I can remember in my lifetime at Leeds.
Brilliant it is. You kind of have to like choose one or the other now, don't you? With your goalkeeper could be a safe goalkeeper in terms of coming and punching it, but they might not be the best with their feet. Or you can have someone who's really good with the feet, and then you kind of don't trust them from corners and things like that. I think Meslier is getting better at that, but I think he's still a little bit like he's a good shot stopper and he can play with his feet. But claiming things out of the air, he does. I tend to think he does struggle a little bit. But Nigel Martin was one that had all of those things. So yeah, he was fantastic and a great choice for your goalkeeper. Let's move on to your right back position then. Who have you gone for at right back?
again, this is another one that everyone seems to be picking. Is I've gone for Gary Kelly, the one club man, absolute hero of mine growing up because I played right back. He was just sensational at everything, up and down the pitch. Could play right wing. He was just amazing, and he's just an all round great guy. He was brilliant for Leeds.
Yeah, you don't see many one club men, do you? And he obviously took his chance when he came over from Ireland, and was just fantastic for Leeds for so many years. And I think perhaps he probably would have got more recognition if he was in a better national team, should we say, so a national team that had a bit more success. That you would imagine would probably be the sort of player who would get in the England team if he was English over a Gary Neville or someone like that. I would have said that he was a better all round footballer. But yeah, I think again, I think there's a theme with a lot of these players is that you get to nowadays, and a lot of people don't tend to rate them as highly as what Leeds players remember them. But I guess that's always the thing, isn't it? When you don't watch that player week in, week out. Yeah. And obviously I didn't, because it was I was very, very young when he was playing for Leeds. But from what everybody said, it's criminally underrated. Again, somebody else who people just don't think is as good as he was.
Well, he spanned 3 eras of the club, didn't he? He was there for when the Howard Wilkinson era, and he played all through the O'Leary era, and he even he stayed with us when we went down as well. He was like the prankster of the club as well. He was just well thought by everybody. And I remember a goal he scored against Wigan. I think it was a volley from outside the box. I think it might have been an FA Cup game actually, but he was absolute. He didn't score many goals for us, but that goal sticks in my memory as one of the greatest moments for him. And it's just a shame how it all ended with Gary Kelly, because I think he fell out with was it Dennis Wise he fell out with at the club or something like that. I'm sure somebody in the comments can remind me about that, but he was probably one of my most favorite players was Gary Kelly. Just everything he did, and I think Luke said on when you said of him is how much money would he be worth today in today's market for what he could do. Absolutely fantastic player he was. Perfect fullback, I would say.
Yeah, brilliant. And you can understand why people have put him in. If they were making their dream team, you can understand why people are putting him in, because he just gives you everything at that right back role.
And he still goes to all the games and takes pictures with the fans outside the ground as well. It's absolutely amazing that someone like that has stayed around for so long.
Yeah, it's always nice to see, isn't it, when players stick around, especially I know he just came to Leeds and did his whole career there, really. But there's other players who have just had Leeds as one of their clubs in their career, really, and they've all sort of stuck around. At Leeds was the one that they had the most affiliation to, so you can tell that it's such a fantastic club to be a part of. So who's going to go next to Gary Kelly then at your centre back position?
This one's a bit. I think a few people have picked him and some people haven't, but I remember this because he was like my age growing up through the team. So I've actually gone for Jonathan Woodgate because of the memories that he brought out on me. Because we just need to remind everybody this is favourite players, not who the best 11 of all time. It was Jonathan Woodgate, because if he was playing,
so far there's a shout for this to be best players, really, for the players that you've picked already. Jonathan Woodgate was unbelievable. He was obviously riddled with his injuries, but he was a fantastic player in his own right.
If he was playing today, I think he was ahead of his time back then. The way the ball playing defender was, he just oozed class, didn't he? And he'd win a lot in the air, played the ball around on the ground. He was just good at everything. He had pace as well, and not many central defenders had that back then. Apart from, I guess, Sol Campbell would have been the fastest defender around during his day. But it's gotten to
the point where it's like nowadays it's the central defenders have become more and more athletic to the point where they can out sprint like really quick strikers at sometimes, and you think, like, bloody hell, how's he got there? And they've just become so athletic, so strong. Back then it was a little bit more of, we won't even allow them to get in behind us to have to chase and get them, and it was more of like a being solid thing. But like you say, somebody who was a ball playing defender at that time, they would then really stand out, and that's why people call them a Rolls Royce and stuff, defenders, because they're just so calm on the ball.
When we had him, I remember the media at the time was saying, because we signed Ferdinand as well, that we had the 2 best centre backs in the league when we were going through that period when we were on the up. Because I remember Woodgate playing against Shearer, Fowler, Andy Cole, and pocketing them for games. It was just weird. And then he had his big moves, didn't he? And it's just, without injuries, he could have been one of the best English centre backs that we've ever seen. But there was always a dark cloud around Jonathan Woodgate because of the the stuff that happened around the court case and that, weren't it really? And he was always suffered with off-field antics, but watching him play on the pitch was amazing. Being a young Leeds fan back then,
it's weird how some players are just destined to not have any luck with injuries and what they could have been, and some people's bodies are just built to last in football. Some of them just aren't at all. But it's just like luck of the draw, isn't it? And you never know, because somebody can be an unbelievable footballer like Jonathan Woodgate, but he was riddled with injuries, plagued with them throughout his career. And it's just, you've got to think, you've got to feel sorry for these people, because although, yes, they've earned more money than we'll ever earn in our lives whilst playing football, but it's like they get to the end of their career and they go, what could have been if I hadn't have had those injuries? But there's nothing they could have done about them. But he certainly was one of those that would have probably been considered one of the best defenders in the world if he hadn't have had those injuries.
I think so. He obviously played for Real Madrid and he had the craziest debut of all time. He went on to Newcastle and played for Tottenham. He went to Tottenham and won a cup straight away. He did big things in his career. It's just injuries just hampered him really, which was sad. And I mean, he probably could have stayed with us as well if we didn't have all that stuff going on in the background, and the stuff that happened with him and YEBOAH with the court case. Obviously, oh, sorry, mate, my headphones just gone off there. But...
so yeah, got you now.
And that contributed towards what happened with the club as well, with the financial stuff, because we had to pay a lot of money out in suits and that. So it was just a strange time and a strange player, but he had a bad side. Jonathan would get off the pitch, and it was really because he could have went on to massive things. Yeah,
who's going to partner Jonathan Woodgate then at the left centre back spot?
The chief, Lucas Radebe. There's only one person I could put beside him. Again, this is all about memories and the emotions that it evokes from me thinking about old Leeds players. He was just a rock, weren't he? He was. We only paid 250k for him. He only came because of Phil Masinga. We wanted his mate to come along, and then he became the Leeds cult hero. And it didn't even get off to that much of a good start, his career under Wilkinson. He didn't really fancy him. And then when George Graham George Graham come in and took over and was just, then he became this hero. Again, he was suffered with injuries too, Radebe, but he got offers from Milan, Man United, everywhere to go. Fergie rated him as one of the best defenders in the league. He was just amazing. But the way he used to defend as well, Max, he was like doing diving headers out the way, doing scissor kicks. I just remember
his body on the line and just
for everything.
One of those defenders where the Leeds fans just instantly take to them and love them because they put the body on the line, and that's all they want, isn't it? For somebody to just go, put it all on the line to try and stop goals going in. And he's another one that still takes a big interest in what Leeds are doing, and he always puts pictures on his social media saying that he's watching Leeds on the TV or whatever. And another one where he's come over from South Africa and we've adopted him as one of our own, and he's loved by the fans and he loves the club. So it's well worthy.
He played for 2 years during that spell at Leeds as well, because he had some really, really bad injuries. But everything I just remember him about doing, he even went in goal for one game, didn't he, as well?
Which was 2 games, I think it was, wasn't it?
Was it?
I
don't remember. I just remember the one.
Yeah, but I think everybody remembers the Man United one, but I think there was another one. I think it was only like a few weeks before or after. I can't remember. One of the other guys that we had on was saying about it. And so there's those iconic pictures of him, isn't there, in that kit?
I think he come off of Mark Beanie, didn't he? He might have come off of Mark Beanie. Something's tickling in the back of my head. I was a young lad at the time, but something's coming in the back of my head. You could be right there, or probably right. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, but it's that. I mentioned it on the previous episode, so I won't go too much into it, but how he just instantly volunteers just shows a sign of someone who's a great leader at the club. So another fantastic choice, and already looking like a very, very solid back line. Who's going to complete the back line then and go in at the left back spot?
I've got to go for Gary Kelly's family relative. I've got to go for Ian Hart. He was one of my favourite Leeds players. Again, playing the full back. Always wanted to play like these lads. But he was a hero for Leeds, a hero for Ireland. Always used to score against Arsenal at Highbury as well. I remember that too. And he could have went off to places like Barcelona and AC Milan, but decided to stay. And he was just great. Obviously, he scored 28 goals for us, including penalties and free kicks.
Free kick specialist, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was brilliant. He weren't blessed with pace, and he weren't blessed with defending compared to what Gary could on the other side. But he was going forward. He was absolutely fantastic. Assists, I think he got like 50 assists as well, something like that. I forgot that written down somewhere. But yeah, he was just great. He was brilliant. And one thing that sticks out with me about Ian Hart is, I remember watching Match of the Day as a young kid, and Alan Hansen didn't like Ian Hart, and he kept saying, "Oh, Ian Hart's got no right foot. He's got no right foot at all." And in a game a few weeks later, I can't remember who it was against. Maybe someone can remind me in the comments as well. But he's like cutting from the right and ran halfway across the pitch near to the edge of the team's box, and then used his right and pinged it right into the top corner. It was amazing. I remember talking about that for weeks as a kid.
Perfect answer to the criticism. Yeah, and like you say, he was a free kick specialist as well, wasn't he? And that's something we've lacked. I mean, ever since then, really, we haven't really had somebody who consistently delivers free kicks into the back of the net. It's just not really a thing for us in the last 20 odd years, is it? Really, that we've had someone that could do that sort of thing. So yeah, he was quite special in that way as well.
He was exciting. Leeds fan loved watching him play. I mean, it went off the boil towards the end before he moved out to Spain, and he started scoring goals again and come back and play for Reading, I think Bournemouth, Carlisle, and started scoring goals. Just loads of penalties it was for him. But yeah, he was a joy to watch, because he was that probably would have been better in today's game than it would have been back then as well. But yeah, you're right. No, we ain't had nobody that can put free kicks in like Ian Hart could now, that can get a lot of goals from set pieces. We haven't got it. And yeah, I think we need somebody like that, really, because we do seem to get a lot of free kicks in that now.
It makes a difference, doesn't it, in a season to get a few extra free kicks, a few extra goals means a few extra points. And although I did see a video with Joel Piroux and Willie Nonto doing a goal scoring challenge with Will Brazier on YouTube, and the amount of times that Piroux's free kicks hit the bar, I was thinking shades of Rafinha's free kicks where he always hit the bar. But if you can just get him a few inches down, and he nearly scored against Blackburn, but granted it took a deflection, but I'd rather see him take some free kicks a little bit more. But yeah,
I'd like to see him take more free kicks too, Piroux, because he seems to be quite calm and finishing, and like we all know his finishing ability. But yeah, I'd like to see him take more free kicks over the likes of Somerville and the rest of them too. Yeah, I think you're right with that one.
Offers you something different with the left foot as well, and that's what Ian Hart had, tying it back to who you've picked. Is he had that left footed, and so if anything on the right hand side, he's got that extra little bit of help, really, with it being left-footed, so you can choose who you have on it. But Ian Hart's a great choice. So let's go for right mid, and then we'll go like across the pitch from right to left. So who's your right mid?
Cool. This one's a bit more is recency bias, really, but I'll have to go with, because how exciting he was during the time that we had him, I've got to go for Rafinha. Just because I fell in love with him, really. The way he played football, everything that he did. He was skilled. He could run. He could score goals. And the one thing that I respect about him the most is that year where we stayed up and on the last day against Brentford. For that season, he kind of dragged us over the line, really, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was a fantastic player, and just. It's just something that we hadn't seen for so long. Like somebody with that much flair and talent playing for Leeds. It was like, oof. We've got someone good here.
I think he was probably the best player that we ever that we had since the year we got relegated from the Prem the first time. Because he got fans out there. He single-handedly won his games at times. I remember the Norwich game where he set up Galhart, and the way he did all that and took it around the keeper and then passed it across to him. It's just a shame that we did the first season. We didn't get to see much of him because of COVID, and the fans would have loved watching him a lot more than what they did. And
yeah, they would. Yeah.
17 million that we paid for him in today's market, bargain, and obviously we sold him for 55 mil. What a player he was, And I think that moment against Gary Cahill, I'm sure everyone's seen this skill. That just personifies what Rafinha was, just a maverick, but also he worked hard, could take a long throw in towards the end of his career too. But and it's like, I remember the game that we beat Man City, and we're already 2-1 up, and he's running through the centre of the pitch, and Fernandinho had to basically take him out to stop him getting through, and that just personified that season and that Leeds team with Rafinha like that, how good we were that year. And he was just obviously the pick, really, wasn't he?
It was like the perfect storm, wasn't it, when he came into a Bielsa team, and it just all seemed to work for him, and he hadn't been previously working too much at his previous clubs, and he needed a little bit of a home, and we kind of gave him that for however brief it was, 2 years, but he made a big impact in that time, and it's perfectly reasonable to pick him, because when it's favorite players, like you say, it's people who lift you off your seat, it's people who give you memories and what you attach to that, and just him cutting inside and scoring that first goal against Everton, banging it in the bottom corner and going, oh, okay, we've got something here, and then after that, like you say, just nutmegging people, curling the ball in the top corner, and just doing so much good stuff for Leeds and dragging us across the line that, he was unbelievable, Rafinha.
It was after that goal against Everton that's when he started to move on then, really, wasn't it? I think he was coming off the bench in the first couple of games, but the goal against Everton, that's when you started to see more. He elevated his game from then onwards. And I think, like you mentioned, perfect storm of Bielsa's coaching, getting how fit the players were, putting them under their regime, and just everything just worked out, didn't it? Everybody was fit, everybody was firing, and I think his game elevated due to the coaching and the way that we played too, and it got him the move to Barcelona. Even if the second season we were terrible, he still looked like
I think we'd have probably got relegated in that season if we didn't have him. So it made a big difference for us to have him, and it meant, so you can tell that somebody who really loves football, can't you? Because when we scored against Brentford and when we won that game, you could just see his celebrations. He knows that he's leaving, but he's like absolutely buzzing that he's kept us up and is ready to go on to move on to his next club. And obviously, I don't think you'd have stayed if we'd have got relegated then. But that's the one thing that sticks out the most to me, Max, is the fact that he could have downed tools. I mean, he could have went to Barcelona for a lot cheaper than what he actually paid him. Yeah. So it sticks with me, the fact that he did everything that he could to keep us in the league, knowing that at the end of the year, either way, he would have been off to Barcelona, because it was going on for a while, wasn't it? And he did everything that he could, and he got us more money out of it, basically, by doing what he did. And I'll always look fondly back on Rafinha, even though he's playing well for Barcelona, but they just don't seem to like him there. It's really strange. No, but then they're a bit like Real Madrid with just how they're just big babies, aren't they, really, in terms of... Do you remember when they signed... when Real Madrid signed Hazard? And at the time, he was like one of the best players in the world and was an amazing signing for them. And they're all just chanting, we want Mbappe. And it's like, oh, my God, like, how could you be that spoiled? But I think that's a bit of a thing. I mean, Barcelona fans are used to seeing Messi cutting off that right-hand side. And so, Rafinha's not going to be as good as Messi, but you can't expect him to be. So they're a bit like... maybe I will take back babyish, but they're a little bit. They have high expectations, and when someone doesn't meet that, they can turn on them pretty quickly. But
he had a good season last year. It's strange, isn't it? He scored a lot of goals, played really well. He hasn't done that bad this season. From what I've heard and what I've read, it's like they're not playing a system that suits what Rafinha can do as well, which is a shame, really, because they do have talent all over the pitch. They probably just Xavi just plays to what he thinks, but. Yeah, he'll always be in my memory as a player that dragged us over the line. And I think if he would have stayed for another season, we would have stayed up as well.
Yeah, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, I'll just mention this briefly before we move on to the next one, but there's like a philosophy that obviously it's not ended up well for Leicester in the end, but they would sell their biggest player that season, but not sell a second best player. But we sold them both at the same time, our two best players, and we were kind of doomed from that point, I think, to end up going down. But let's talk about something a bit happier and move on to your right central midfielder.
I've got this. He didn't play that many games for us, this guy, but I just remember him being an absolute machine. I've gone for Olivier Dacourt.
Okay, first person to pick him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have said in the comments that they really like Dacourt, but you're the first person to actually pick him. So why did you like him?
He was midfield general. He was absolute class. He was tenacious. He was ball winning, great at passing, but also he carried the ball really well. I mean, if I could put him, he reminded me of Patrick Vieira. Obviously, he's just not as good as Patrick Vieira, but he was in
that mold of player. I get what you mean.
Yeah, that mold of player. He was in the France squad around when they won the Euros, so he was a good player. I know he played for Everton, then went back to France, and then he came to us. And he was one of the main reasons that we flew up the league and got to the Champions League semi-final. And everything about him just oozed class, but also steel and defensive mindedness. He was just brilliant at everything. Again, he was just in that Patrick Vieira mold for me. In around a different time, he could have played a lot more for France too. But just at that time, they had everything then. In their Petit and Vieira.
That's the story of a lot of players, isn't it? And you look at them and you look at like national teams of the past, like your France, your Italy's, your England's, and stuff like that. And then you look at the bench and you think, oh yeah, that player was there at the time, but the first team was so good that these players weren't able to get in, and it's a bit of a shame for them, because I guess if you then play in an era that isn't as good as you do get in, you might not win anything. So when like that was around the time France would have won the World Cup, wasn't it? I think
he came onto the scene in about 2000. That's when they won the Euros, and he was like a French international from 2000 onwards. I did a little bit of research on him today because he's that far back, this one. But I mean, him and Batty in centre midfield we were steel. Nothing was getting through the pair of them when we were playing. And this is one of the main reasons we got to the Champions League semi-final, because them two together were absolute dynamite, and they were rough. But they could also, both of them could actually play football too, and it was just brilliant back then.
It's kind of a requirement of a 4-4-2, isn't it, to have number 8s that can defend, can really put the bodies on the line, but also have a bit of ability to go forward, and that's something that isn't really, that's not really a thing anymore. It is. There's certain players who fit that mold, but most of the time you either have a set holding midfielder or an attacking midfielder. And when you do have a number 8, if you will, like a Glenn Kamara, he's kind of, he's good, but he's not like amazing at defending or amazing at going forward. Do you know what I mean?
Them two were old school
like the whole
6s.
package.
Yeah, we talk about the 4s and the 8s and the 10s in this game, but they don't really talk about the 6s anymore. They're the ones that would get up and down, the box-to-box players, and we had both of them, and both of them had energy. But Decor just stands out. It's because also we could score a goal as well, a good one. And I remember a goal he scored against Arsenal, and I think it hit them quite hard in their title challenge, if I can remember it correctly. And he ran through the middle of the pitch with the ball, taking on everybody, and he's got brought down, and he's just stood up and said, "I'll take this," and he's pinged it into the top corner. He was a leader, Decor. and again, this guy's quite vocal about Leeds on Twitter and that as well. He mentioned that he's still in a big Leeds WhatsApp group with all the old players that he played with at the time. The only thing that tarnishes his reputation really is the fact there was 2 reasons, actually. For one is this team should have won something, I think. The team that Decor played in with all the players. And 2 is when Terry Venables come in, he didn't like Decor. He was one of our best players. When O'Leary left and Venables has come in, he said he didn't like Decor, said he didn't rate him at all. And it just ended from there. But I think he was playing Paul Ocon over Olivier Decor, which was really strange, and the fans were really like crazy about it.
See, I don't even know who Paul Ocon is. I've literally never heard of him.
He was an Australian international that played for us back in the day. Right. This would have been around 2003, 2004. Tom would have been around the time we probably got relegated as well.
So I was about 6, so I'm not likely to remember.
Yeah, but Decor he's just rangy, and he added a bit of class, and this is why I liked him. And I think he only played about 60 games, maybe a bit more. But
people can still leave an impact, can't they?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I picked him in there.
Yeah. So who's going to go next to him then as another number 6?
I've gone for recency bias here. Again, I'm going to go for, because of the memories it has been at my age, and I'm going to have to go with KP, Calvin Phillips. For what he did at the time that he was with us, from the Bielsa era up until he won England Player of the Year, was phenomenal, wasn't it? He was a really late bloomer of a player, because when he played for us, he was good, but he weren't that good. And when Bielsa come in and changed his game around, he went from just like an average midfielder into one of the best in the league in the Premiership at the time as well.
So if we've got any new fans of Leeds United in the viewers, that's not the right way to say it, but you know what I mean. If we've got any new Leeds United fans, basically Bielsa came in and Calvin Phillips had been playing a little bit further forward the season before, and he'd been a bit of a number 10 almost, and he'd been actually scoring a couple of goals that season. Bielsa came in and he basically gave people their positions that he thought they should be based on shirt number. So he just said number 4 for Calvin Phillips, and Calvin Phillips was a bit like, he said in interviews since, he was a bit like, hold on, I was playing number 10 last season, I'm a goal scorer. But Bielsa is just the genius he is. He just had seen something to play him there, and obviously ever since then, I mean, up until the point he left us, really, he'd just been growing and growing, and up to the point where he became England's player of the tournament at the Euros. So he was unbelievable, and I always just I love Calvin Phillips. I think he's probably my favorite Leeds player of all time, just because this is the era I've grown up in, like the Championship, League One days, and all that sort of stuff. So somebody like him, and because he came through the academy, that always helps as well, doesn't it? And his ability to just ping a pass, long raking balls, and the ability to just absolutely chop someone in half and get the ball, just perfect for me. I love that type of player.
Well, he dictated everything that we did for 3 years, really. Everything that we did came that was good came through him. It's mad that he went from, like you said, an average Championship midfielder to England's Player of the Year, playing in the European Championship final within 3 years of being coached by Marcelo Bielsa. And he went from, again, just playing like that attack. You were right, he did score a few goals the year before as well. He went from this attacking midfielder into the Yorkshire Pirlo. And that's what happened.
I think that's a perfect nickname for him as well, isn't it? Because that is Pirlo's job. Although Pirlo, he kind of played withdrawn sometimes. He wasn't necessarily too much of a tough tackler, but he did play almost in that holding midfield role. But that was just so he could be nowadays we call it like the quarterback, don't we? Where they're basically just looking from side to side, keeping everything ticking like a metronome. It's just like the conductor of the orchestra, and they're just getting the ball, looking up, getting the ball. Someone's made a run. He's just like, okay, bang, right over the top. And and that's what Calvin did, as well as his ability to go and make tackles as well. And yeah, I love Calvin Phillips.
Again, like you say, it's just the only thing that he had injuries, didn't he, that last season? Yeah. And again, I think we wouldn't have been in that relegation dogfight if he was there. If he would have stayed fit for the entire season. And obviously, everything's not gone to plan since he's left, and that's what everyone's remembering now, is the fact that he's not playing for Man City. They're not remembering the fact that he was England's Player of the Year. He was, again, that quarterback for us, and the way he sprayed passes around for Leeds. Started off near enough every attacking move for us. It was putting in the tackles. I remember a tackle he put in on Conor Gallagher when he played for Crystal Palace, and just personified what Calvin Phillips was good at, because he won the tackle, the ball went in the air, picked it up, and started spraying passes around. And he was a joy to watch. And I still hold hope that if we go up next year, he goes out on loan in January to get game time for the Euros, and everything just all works out nicely. He doesn't get sold by Man City. He goes out on loan, and everything just works out well for us.
Can you imagine it? Can you imagine his little face lighting up, coming back out, walking back out at Elland Road as a Leeds player? I think he would just love it. I mean, I know he didn't play much, but he's won a treble now, and it's horrible to see him sat on the bench, because he loves playing football. He's such a happy, smiley character. But I've seen, I mean, literally earlier today, I saw a screenshot of him sat on Man City's bench, just like.
I saw it too. I was watching the game.
I hope he does get a loan spell. I hope he goes out somewhere warm, like Italy or something. I think he'd be really good in Italy if he can stay fit. Hope he goes somewhere like that, gets 6 months of good football under his belt, and then maybe comes back and gets a permanent move back to us for less than we sold him for.
That's the dream, isn't it? That he goes out on loan and not get sold, goes out on loan in January, and then we go up and everything, just all the stars align, and he comes back in January. I know there's people that wouldn't want him back, but I'd say 99% of the fan base would want Calvin Phillips back at Leeds.
We would, but I do just want to preempt what some of the comments are going to say. I don't think it will happen, because he's in his injury record, and Leeds getting promoted, we kind of need to sign players that are going to be, do you know what I mean, have a good injury record and are going to stay fit for us, because we're not a Man City who can afford to buy him and sit him on the bench or have him injured. So maybe in a couple of years, once we're a bit more settled, we can get him back or whatever. But I don't see it happening, but I would love it to, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I agree.
Yeah, let's move on to your left midfielder then.
Left midfield. I think only one person's picked this guy. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he would have been picked once. I've gone for Robert Snodgrass because I think because at the time where we were and what he brought to the team was amazing. And these were the back to the wall days where everyone hated Leeds. We had just come off a season of a points deduction, and when we did so well, and then I think Gary Mack signed him. It might have been Gary Mack, and I didn't know who he was. I thought he just had a funny name as a young lad. Just come in, he's got a funny name. I think it was like 14 years ago we've signed him, and I think he came 08, 09 around that, and he didn't really get off to a good start. I didn't know who he was. And then he ended up finishing his first season with 11 goals and 19 assists. He weren't blessed with pace, but he could pass the ball amazing. And he was always involved. He was a great character as well. Just what a player at the time. Because I think he went down a level where he shouldn't have been playing. At the time he come to us, he probably should have been playing Championship. And I think we signed him from Livingston for really cheap. And he's just come in and he's absolute class. And he was at that time with,
I was just going to say
at that time. Oh, sorry, carry on. Sorry,
I was just going to say at the time, some of the time it was like just give the ball to Snodgrass and see what he can do, because he was that good at that level, and his delivery was good, his shooting was good. He was also a bit of like a low center of gravity, a bit of a bulldog, like just he gets stuck into people as well, wouldn't he? And he wasn't just a dainty winger or anything. He would properly get stuck into people and be up for a scrap as well.
It was a mentality monster. You could see on the pitch that everything that he did, he was screaming, shouting, always talking. He probably could have made a good captain. And he's just, because everyone thinks about Bescio, Beckford and Snodgrass and Howson of that team because of what they had to go through and where they were with the owner that we had at the time. We went through managers a lot until Simon Grayson come in. But at that time, I'm sure that hopefully some of the Leeds fans will remember, they're going to comment on this. During that season when Snodgrass and that first come in, we weren't winning matches until like the last 5 minutes of games. We kept scoring so many late winners against like MK Dons, or these are all sticking out. And there weren't no IPTV or anything like that back then. You used to just watch Soccer Saturday if you couldn't get to a game. And they always used to go to Leeds at the end of the match saying, "Oh, we're going back here to Ellen Road," and Leeds have scored again. It was absolutely, and he was a major part of that. And 19 assists in the first season for Leeds and 11 goals. He was
it's not bad, is it?
It's not bad at all. And I pick him because he was like something different that we had at the time, and just he set up a lot of goals for the strikers. He's just everything that we needed, and Leeds has got a good legacy with Scottish players. So this is why I wanted to pick him. As my family's from a Scottish background, and I had to have one Scottish player in there. So I've gone for Robert Snodgrass just because at the time he was just a mentality monster, and everything he did was amazing for Leeds. And I'm sure a lot of the fans, because he was there through obviously people like yourself, a little bit younger than me, and he would have been there through like the days where it was horrible, and then as we got better, and he was there, and he was one of the players that grew with the club. I think we had him.
He was one of the ones where he was like,
he
was one of the ones where he was like something to hang on to, is that we've got Snodgrass, and I really liked Snodgrass, and obviously going to school, I don't live around Leeds, didn't grow up around Leeds, but so everybody would just be Man United fans, Liverpool fans, or whatever, and I'd be like, "Oh, but we've got Snodgrass and Becchio and Beckford and stuff as well." But like that would always be the thing, and they'd be like, "Who?" But I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're missing out."
But he was good though. I mean, I think like we talked about Ian Hart. I think Snodgrass could be the closest thing that we had to somebody who was good at free kicks back then. I remember him coming on against Man United when Beckford scored the win, and he hit the crossbar with a free kick in that game. We should have actually won 2-0 instead of 1-0.
I don't actually remember that. I obviously the only thing I remember from that game is the Beckford goal. That's all I remember. But I didn't know that Snodgrass hit the bar as well. I will have seen it because I watched that game, because it was one of the few that was actually on TV of Leeds at the time.
Yeah, it was on TV back then. Yeah, I remember because I was watching it with one of the lads that do the podcast, James. I was around his house and he just had a baby, and I've screamed the house down when Beckford scored and woke his baby up, and his missus going crazy, and I'm like, I just couldn't stop myself. It was just brilliant. But yeah, Snodgrass.
Those moments are what you live for.
That's true. But Snodgrass just reminds me of our backs against the walls days, and when everyone was just taking the mick out of Leeds because we've been relegated, minus 25 points, backs against the wall. Everyone's taking the mick out. I mean, because even Coventry were in the league above us back then, and living in Coventry as a Leeds fan, we were always better than them. And then it then went the other way around. So so I was getting the mickey taken out of me every single week, and he was just good at that time because we beat Man United, and it was just great. It just brings back a lot of memories of us again back against the wall. That siege mentality that we had, and he was right in the middle of it. Was Robert Snodgrass? So I'm going to pick him.
Yeah, was a great shout. I mean, this is why it's favourite and not best, because if you're going best of all time, you pick somebody else. But because it's favourite and the memories you have side,
if it was best, everyone would be picking a certain Australian, wouldn't they? Because he was the best in that position. But no one picks him because of obvious reasons.
No, because he's not going to be anybody's favourite because of what he did. But let's swiftly move on from him.
Yes.
Who've you got? It doesn't really matter, left or right striker. Just pick whichever one you want to go for first.
I'm going to go for an Australian that was all right this time round. I've gone for Mark Viduka up front, and in my 4-4-2. So first striker is Mark Viduka, and he was what you would call the olden day Berbatov, really, in my eyes.
Yeah.
He had everything: skill, strength. He was just pure class. I think we signed him from Celtic as well. He was just so good.
It's one of those, isn't it, where he just, I mean, he wasn't that fit. He probably didn't, compared to modern standards, he didn't run around that much. But when somebody just has the ability to finish like he did, it's invaluable in a team, isn't it? Because you might only get a couple of chances in a game, but more than likely he probably finishes them. Whereas that's something that we've lacked. I mean, over the last couple of years, like from before when Bielsa came in to almost nearly up to now, really, you have times where you think we're creating all these chances. If we had somebody like Mark Viduka, obviously wouldn't be playing for a championship team, but you know what I mean? Like somebody who could finish like that, those chances would hit the back of the net so much more often. We've win so many more games. So to have hit somebody like him is invaluable.
He held the ball up so well. I remember he was around the same time as Ruud van Nistelrooy, and there's always this debate about who holds the ball up better, Mark Viduka or Ruud van Nistelrooy. But Mark Viduka scored 22 goals in his first season. And I'm guessing all the Leeds fans are going to remember the Liverpool game where we won 4-3 and he scored all 3 goals. That was one of the best days of my entire life. It was one of the most complete striker performances you'll ever see. He was amazing. Everything he did, all of his goals were great. The one where he's knocked it round as well and played it in. I'm sure a lot of the older Leeds fans that are watching this are going to remember the Mark Viduka against a Liverpool game. Mark Viduka was a strange one, though, because he didn't like the fame that came with being a footballer.
No, just like playing football, just didn't really want to be famous.
Yeah, he didn't want any of that because he was like, I think he was half Croatian, half obviously Australian.
I think that's where he lives now, you know. I think he lives in Zagreb.
Yeah, apparently he owns a coffee shop, Mark Viduka.
Right.
And another amazing fact about Mark Viduka, Luka Modric is his cousin.
Oh, I think I did know that, but I'd completely forgotten. But then when you said it, it was like ding, ding, ding. Just memory just went off in my head of someone telling me that before.
I think overall, if we didn't have, if he was the only striker we had at the club, then it would be. It's just weird because at the time we had Alan Smith, Mark Viduka, Robbie Fowler, and Robbie Keane, all those 4 strikers in our club at the same time. And I think they used to pick Viduka and Smith the most, and Fowler and Keane weren't getting any game time, which is really strange.
This is why we hit big trouble, because we
couldn't
afford to have all those strikers at the same time.
Yeah, he was just everything I remember good about Leeds during those early naughty years was around Mark Viduka, and that one game against Liverpool just sticks out the most. And I remember being a young lad doing gambars around my mate's living room at the time because we had a Liverpool fan watching, and it was just amazing. And he just had it all. And again, in modern day football, as you say, he's probably like Berbatov, but then he'd also go missing in some games as well. And again, with another one that ended on a sour note, because the day we lost to Bolton 4-1, the day we got relegated, I think he scored a penalty and then he got himself sent off in the game, and then we've gone down and he's buggered off to Middlesbrough. But just the way he played and the emotions that he brought out, Mark Viduka is my first striker.
Yeah, no worries. Who's going to go next to him then? Because whoever's going to go next to him is going to have a great time playing off his hold-up play.
And this man was the man who made me fall in love with football. I've got to go with Tony YEBOAH. Tony YEBOAH.
Okay, yeah.
He wasn't there for a long time, but he was there for a good time.
Yeah.
He's a cult hero, and I guess everybody remembers the goals. I remember at the time, I think we're talking about 95. It's just before England played in the Euros. But that's when I first majorly got into football. Tony YEBOAH was the man who made me fall in love with football. It was those 2 goals against Liverpool and Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Amazing. Even if they were scored today, they'd be goal of the season every year. And
they're still on. I say this every time, but they're still on all the compilations of all-time Premier League goals because they are just so good. And I mean, even the commentary on, I can't remember which one it was. I think it might be the one where he chests it, then knees it, and then volleys it. I think the commentator goes, "Oh, that one might even be better than the Liverpool one." Yeah, because it was just so good.
I think him and Gareth Bale are the only players to win back-to-back goal of the month in the Premiership as well. So
are they?
That's how good they were. YEBOAH, he just had injuries. He didn't play that much for us, but if you look at his goal scoring record across all the clubs he's played for, he averages nearly a goal every 2 games, which is wild. He scored, and the same for his international playing for Ghana as well. He had a lot of injuries too. And it's a shame, really, because he weren't just a scorer of goals; he was a scorer of great goals. And I just remember some of the way he used to do his fun when he used to score. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the man who made me fall in love with football, because those goals, just loved it as well. And the kit that we played at the time was probably one of the best kits we've ever had. Everything just sticks out and brings out emotion. And Tony YEBOAH was the one that made me fall in love with football and made me fall in love with Leeds, really, because I'd just be out playing and wouldn't really care, just play football in the street. And then after that, it got really serious, and it's all down to him. He made everything for us. And I remember going to meet my mate James, who does the podcast with us, who's a Leeds fan as well, in Coventry. We were talking about that for years. But every time we're playing out in the street, if you hit the crossbar and it went in, it was always called, you've done it, YEBOAH. And I think you still see that for years and years. It was just amazing at the time. He was a big cult hero, and I guess all Leeds fans love Tony YEBOAH. It's just, again, he was there for a good time, not a long time, which was a shame, really, because I think he could have scored a lot more goals if he went for those injuries that he had too as well.
But he left such a lasting impression, even in the short time he was there. And it was, and someone else told me it was a year, but it was like half of one season, and it was like a season and a half or something. It wasn't even 2 full years that he was there. But I think, like, young fans these days and young kids these days watching football, they probably don't understand how good a goal every 2 games is, because Ronaldo, Messi, and Haaland now have completely destroyed that that concept that a goal every 2 games is really, really good, because they've just completely smashed that out of the water. But before that, pretty much before those 3, that just wasn't a thing. A goal every couple of games is an amazing record. And that's something that, like, Alan Shearer would have had a goal every 2 games. And so when he's the all-time Premier League top goal scorer, it's like, that was really, really good back then. I don't know if it's to do with better defending or, worse defending now. Yeah.
Yeah, the kids are spoiled with, like you say, with Messi and Ronaldo, because those stats will probably never ever be beaten. I mean, if Kylian Mbappe scored 30 goals a season for the next 10 years of his life, still not going to score as many goals as them two, and that's how good them two are.
Yeah,
and
this is ridiculous.
Yeah, so we go into looking back then at YEBOAH's rate of 1 goal near enough every 2 games across his career. That's fantastic. And cult hero. Again, he's like Rafinha, he got fans out of his seats. But the way he hit a ball, I remember, I think he scored a hat-trick against, was it Monaco once? And I think he scored 3 hat-tricks for us, I can remember.
Yeah.
All this useless information, this brain is always just about Leeds games. Nothing that can help me in the real life. And it's just amazing. And he was the man who made me fall in love with football. So he has to be in my Leeds team. Has to be.
Yeah, that's great.
Players that would have scored more goals than him, but he's there, mate. Yeah, has to be.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've left him for last, which is very perfect for the episode, really, telling you how it's about how people became a Leeds fan, a lot of it. And Tony YEBOAH played a bigger part than many did in your journey as a Leeds fan. I asked this question, and I usually spring it upon people: who would be your captain in this team?
Ooh, who would be my captain?
Honestly, every single person I've said this question to has gone, ooh. Everyone's had the exact same reaction to go, ooh.
I'd probably go with Gary Kelly. I'd think so, just because one club man and everything he did for us, the amount of appearances that he made, experience. I'd say Gary Kelly would have to be the captain of that side,
Yeah, it's strange because people have picked similar players to you because they've been from a similar generation as you watching Leeds. And I've asked them this question, and a lot of them have all picked different players to be the captains. And it kind of just details what you want in a captain, really. Like, you're picking Gary Kelly because he's a one club man. He was a laugher and a joker, keeps people's spirits high. He was also very commanding, would talk and stuff and be quite vocal as well. But other people would pick somebody. I know Luke picked Gordon Strachan to be his captain, but that was more of a lead by example kind of captain, somebody who wasn't maybe marshalling people around and controlling things as much. But it's just interesting how people's brains work with what kind of captain they want to see. And they're all valid options because people are picking their favorite ever players. A lot of them are eligible to be a captain, I would say, in these teams. So the other thing that we say is, first of all, we say that it's you that's the manager of this team. And basically, how would you like them to play? Whether it just can be as simple as you like, whether it's just the back four are very, very solid, helped out by those 2 in midfield, and the the front four in terms of the wingers and the strikers can just do their own thing, or is there something else that you?
I think with the way I've picked this side, and I'd like my fullbacks to bomb forward because that's what both of them can do. They'd be would be involved in a lot of the play, and I think because you've got KP and Olivier Dacour in there as well, would be defensively sound in the middle of the pitch, and I'd get KP to drop in as a centre back as well, like he used to do for us when he played for Bielsa.
That's a good shout, to be fair. Yeah, make it a 3.
And then get the fullbacks to move forward. But Dacour's was quite disciplined as well. And then let the attacking players just do whatever they wanted, really. And I think you could play both types of football with the strikers that we picked, because if you hit that ball long, Viduka's going to get to that ball a lot as well, and he's going to hold it up
and then
into the game.
And even if it's a bouncing ball, YEBOAH's probably going to put it in the top corner, because he loved to volley, didn't he? So if he chested it down, it bounced for YEBOAH, he's just going to absolutely tonk it one. So yeah, fantastic team. The other thing we're going to ask is, who is your favourite ever Leeds manager?
There can only be one man, really, in my eyes. I've seen a lot through the years, but Marcelo is for me. Just for what he did, how he made me feel about football. We're in the wilderness when he come in, and the way he turned, didn't need a lot of budget. But in that first season, when he come in, the way he changed the players, Mateus clicked. What he did for him was huge for me, because he was out on loan that the year before.
No one wasn't he? People thought he wouldn't really come back and ever play for Leeds again, because he'd sort of just been not good enough, really. But yeah, he just.
Well, Stuart Dallas was a squad player when Bielsa come in, and now he's a folk hero because of everything that he's done, and the way he coached those players was just too good for me. Yeah, Marcelo would be the man I'd love to manage that side there. Imagine him being in charge of those players there. Viduka would be like proper fit as well. He was always known for being a bit iffy with his fitness, so yeah, he'd turn them into world beaters, I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, fantastic. Thanks, Kev. That is an amazing team. Everybody who's watching can see that on the screen down below. Is there anything that you want to plug? Is there anything that you're doing in the near future that you want people to go and check out?
No, I'll just say, get everybody to go check out the Leeds House on YouTube, as well as Not Another Leeds podcast. There's some stuff coming out over the next couple of weeks, guys. Just keep an eye on it. We just tend to be a little bit more laid back and try and have a laugh with the podcast that we do. As Max mentioned at the start, Not Another Leeds podcast is more of a comedy thing that we like to do, and we do loads of little snippets of things. And the Leeds House will be more talk about football and still try and be funny on there too. So yeah, go check it out.
Yeah, they'll both be linked in the title and the description. They'll be down there so for you to go and check them out. So, yes, thanks very much for joining me, Kev. Excellent team. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately.